You do an intro or Jim, you need that?
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you here on our 37th anniversary. Nice to see a nice crowd. Must be warming up outside or something, or getting cold in Florida, Texas. Hey, we're very fortunate today to have with us Dr. Joe Baum, President of the Diocesan Education Association. One of the things that's near and dear to my heart and a lot of you people here is education. And that's what it's all about. What can we do as Catholics to preserve our education system as the way it was years ago and the way we'd like it to be? So Joseph, lead on.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning. Good morning. And happy 37th. Well, Jim asked me a few weeks ago if I would mind. It's not on, is it? Can you hear it? Yeah. Asked me to give a talk on what's happening in Catholic education here in the diocese and what we can do as a group of Catholics to keep Catholic school education going and eventually grow it. So what I'm going to do, the first part of my presentation deals with kind of where we are as a diocese, how education is structured. Then I'll go into some of the more of the questions. So we'll start off with Catholic education in the diocese. I'll talk a little bit about the Department of Education, what our role is here in the diocese, and its relationship with the schools and the parish religious ed programs. Some of the major projects and initiatives we're involved in currently, the types of Catholic schools that we have within this diocese, and we're sort of unique here in that we have systems. You don't see Catholic school systems in many places in the United States. I'll go through the parochial school structure and the system school structure. Then the next piece moves into some of the questions that Jim had asked. What makes for a successful Catholic school? We'll talk about some of the things that we've seen over the years. Why some schools close, why costs are increasing, what changes are necessary, the importance of Catholic education. Sometimes this gets questioned a lot. How religious education is improving, and then what can we do? That will conclude it. Up until January of last year, the Department of Education was in charge of 7 areas of education or catechesis in this diocese. We, at that time, were responsible for all K-12 education and catechesis, but in addition to that, we were also involved with young adult ministry and adult faith formation. Bishop Ricken decided with the Pope's emphasis on the new evangelization that he wanted a new department that would focus on that. And it would have a focus on adults primarily, young adults and adults. And so he asked Julianne Donlin Stans, who was in my department as our adult faith formation director, to become the full-time director for the new evangelization department. And so young adult ministry and adult faith formation has moved out of my area to Julianne's, and she has some other areas of responsibility now as well. So now we focus strictly on K-12 education and catechesis. The number of schools I have up here, we currently have 48 schools, elementary schools, or K-8 schools I should say, in the diocese. We have 4 middle schools. One of the middle schools is here in Appleton. St. Francis Xavier Middle School is one of 4. Seton is another one in the Neenah Menasha area. And then we have 6 high schools. The high schools are located in Marinette, Manitowoc, Green Bay, here in Appleton, in Neenah, and Oshkosh. This shows the number of students that we have in our elementary schools, our middle schools, and high schools. This number that you see for elementary, where we're, what is it, almost, well, just under 7,000. This figure keeps dropping every year. It's been dropping somewhere between 3 and 6% per year for a number of years. We saw a little bit of an uptick during the 90s with the baby boom echo coming through Catholic schools at that time. But since the boom has gone through, now it's starting to drop again. The one figure that I find very interesting is the high school one. High school stays fairly level and has for several years. It runs somewhere between a low of around 2,000 up to about 2,300 each year. So our high schools seem to be able to maintain their enrollment. We now have 130 foreign exchange students in our high schools throughout the diocese. The vast majority of those students come from one particular country. Can anybody guess where that would be?
India.
China, yeah. Can anybody guess what the number 2 country is?
India.
Korea, yes. The Chinese and the Koreans make up the largest number of our foreign exchange students throughout the diocese. We also have 30,000, maybe a little more, a little less, in parish religious education in this diocese. So there's almost 4 times as many students in parish religious ed than there are in our Catholic schools here in the diocese. I should also point out, too, where are our Catholic schools located? Well, they're located along the US 41 corridor from Marinette all the way to Oshkosh, and then down the I-43 corridor going into the Manitowoc area. The highest concentration of the small parochial Catholic schools are found in 3 counties: Kewaunee, Manitowoc, and Calumet County. Okay, those 3 counties have the largest number of these parochial schools. They tend to be small in size. They're holding their own. Up north, when you get up towards the Highway 29 and above, the schools there are very, very few in number. We have a school, All Saints, up in Antigo. As a matter of fact, our superintendent of schools, John Reitz, commutes every day from Antigo to Green Bay to work in our office. He was the former principal of All Saints School up in Antigo. We also have a school, Sacred Heart, in Shawano. We have St. Anthony's in Oconto Falls, and then there's the St. Thomas Aquinas Academy system in Peshigo and Marinette. So we only have 4 schools for all of the northern part of the diocese. My department is made up of various divisions. The first one is Administrative Services. Next is Camp Tekakwitha, which is located up near Cecil, the Shawano area. We're responsible for the operation of the camp. Curriculum instruction for all of our schools in the diocese, religious education, obviously schools, and youth ministry. This is what I'm responsible for. This is, and I forgot to put, Bishop puts here all other duties as assigned to him. There are a lot of those. But I'm responsible really for the strategic planning that takes place within our department. And each of the divisions has a strategic plan. It has a 5-year time horizon. We're about halfway through our strategic plans as far as time is concerned right now. We do board-in services. I go out to schools, to parishes to do board-in services. I'm currently on a few search committees. We have a number of administrative openings that have come up this year. Here in Appleton, there's some major changes going on in the system, so I'm involved in that. The Diocesan Board of Education is also my responsibility. So I attend the meetings, help put the agenda together, try to twist people's arms to come on the board, etc. I'm also considered a consultant and sometimes an ombudsman. Try to play Switzerland. between opposing forces and try to get people to come to common ground. Bishop's Advisory Council, I'm a member as the Director of Education for the diocese, and so we have those meetings all the time. The pastoral letter that Bishop Ricken came out with in June of 2011 is alive and well, and I'm on that task force to ensure that we keep working on that pastoral letter. We want to make that become a reality here in the diocese over the next 5 to 7 years. And then I oversee the Department of Education itself. Yeah. Camp Tekakwitha, we have a great director in Eric Blumreich. Eric came to the camp about 4 years ago, and at that time the summer camp numbers were down in the 300s, low 300s. Over the last 4 years, he's built that program, just the summer program, up past 500. We're approaching 600 kids during the summer program. So in 4 years, he's almost doubled the number of campers coming to Camp Tekakwitha. Now, I don't know if you've ever been up there, but this is a gem. It's a beautiful, beautiful camp located on a lake up there. And for so many years, they were focusing only on the summer program. Well, Eric and I looked at this and said, you know, this is an asset that should be used year-round. And so Eric has really worked hard. He's worked with parishes, with our schools, with nonprofits, and also with public school districts to come out and use the camp during the year. And so now the camp is really a year-round operation. There are groups up there using the camp for retreats, training sessions, various religious programming all year round, so he's increasing the number of summer campers. He's integrating faith, and this is one of the things that impressed me when I first met Eric, when he was working up there, and the camp wasn't in my department. But Eric very clearly understands the importance of providing a faith experience in anything that he does for the Catholic school kids, the kids that are coming from religious ed, and just the summer camping program. He really gets it. We have a program that was developed at the University of Wisconsin Green Bay called the Fields Program. It's an environmental science program, and our department, the camp, and the U got together, and this program now is available at the camp. In public schools, Catholic schools, various schools in northern Wisconsin can take advantage of this program up at the camp. We also have our own environmental science program. Tony Apps from here has been very instrumental in getting that off the ground as well. I mentioned that we're increasing the use of the camp year-round, and we've been doing this through marketing and also getting a board of directors going who have some expertise in marketing. Next one is curriculum instruction. This is a busy area right now. Bishop Ricken has come out with a directive that we're to use the diocesan standards for both math and language arts. We had those in place, they were always there, but they need to be upgraded. And so Jane Schuler, who's the director here, has a committee, about 25 people actually, working on this right now to beef up the standards here in the diocese. We hope to have this project done by August. At that point, we will then vet a number of language arts and math series per Bishop Ricken's instructions, and we'll see where we are. Bishop Ricken, by the way, for those of you who are interested, has said that if the math or language arts series happens to say align with Common Core, it's fine, as long as they meet the standards of the diocese. The diocesan standards will be higher than Common Core. No problem there. We're revising the guidance curriculum. We're integrating more Catholicism into the guidance program. We also have an initial educators program. When someone wants to become a teacher here in the state of Wisconsin, there are various classes and projects that they need to work on in order to maintain and keep that licensure going. And so we have a requirement that all of our teachers must be certified in our Catholic schools. And so we have to provide the initial educator program for them. and they learn how to put together a portfolio of the materials. It's an opportunity for them to work with a mentor, etc. And Jane Schuler coordinates all that for the diocese. She does the annual teachers conference, which is in October, and she also does a lot of analysis, collecting and analysis of student performance data. Sister Jackie is a sister, Franciscan sister from Manitowoc, who works in our office, and these are all of the things that she's responsible for. I'll just mention a couple of things that she's done an excellent job with. Number one is the religion certification program. We have a program now that consists of 6 10-hour classes. It's on creed, sacraments, morality, prayer and spirituality, the Bible, and then methods. And if you're a catechist, doesn't necessarily have a teaching background, you then learn how to put a lesson plan together, how to control a class, so classroom management, etc. If you're a teacher in our Catholic schools, the methods class then focuses on how do I integrate the Catholic faith into biology, German, English, etc. So the focus there is always on faith integration. We're also starting this coming summer ongoing certification classes. So once you have all 6 of these 10-hour classes in place, then you move up and you do ongoing. And that's every year. You have to take some ongoing classes. This is a requirement for all catechetical leaders, catechists, school administrators, and teachers in the diocese. The other thing that she's working on right now with Maria Demuse, who's our director for youth ministry, is a program on the theology of the body, but with a focus on adults. We want to teach this to grandparents and to parents, so they in turn can teach it to the young ones. Once we get this program off the ground, then we're going to integrate this into the religion program, both in religious education and in our schools. John Reitz, as I mentioned, has the longest commute in the diocese. I think he commutes every day from Manigo to Green Bay and back. There's a few things on his list. He is responsible for the schools here in the diocese of Green Bay. And here are a few things that he's working on. One of the most important ones for John is this faith integration. He's in charge of a committee that works on this. He's also involved in putting together the administrators' in-services, board in-services with me, does a number of school visits, and if there's a problem in the school, usually John's the one that gets the call or the email and has to deal with that. Our newest member of the team is Maria Demuse. Maria was an instructor at Xavier High School, and she joined us about a year ago. And Maria is the first full-time youth minister director that we've had in the diocese in many a year. In years past, it's usually been grouped together with young adult ministry or some other ministry. This is the first time in quite a while that we've had a full-time focus on youth ministry. And the reason this happened is because of Bishop's pastoral letter, the one I mentioned that came out in June of 2011. One of the things that came out loud and clear in all of those meetings leading up to the pastoral letter is we've got a problem with keeping our youth in the church. We don't see a lot of young people involved in their parishes. And so Bishop saw this, recognized the need, and allowed for a full-time person then to focus on youth ministry. So she's been there in our office for about 10 months, and she's already made quite an impact. She has a number of programs going. I've listed some of them here. This is an ongoing 12-month out of the year kind of programming that she's working on with youth. She's out of the office a great deal. I don't see her much in the office. She's out in parishes. She goes to meetings with groups of youth ministers. Many of them are wearing 2 hats. They're the youth minister and they're also the director of religious ed in this diocese. So she and Sister Jackie work very closely together. Now there are 3 kinds of Catholic schools in the diocese, and I've broken them out here. We have parochial schools, which is a more traditional approach to Catholic school education. The parochial school is a school that is part of the parish corporation. A good example is just down the road here, which is Holy Spirit School in Darboy. That's a parochial school. It's owned and operated by Holy Spirit Parish. We also have one private Catholic school in this diocese, and that's Notre Dame Academy. The academy is technically owned by the Norbertines and the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. So they're a separate private Catholic school. When I worked in the East Coast in the Archdiocese of Hartford, this was the more dominant, prominent form of Catholic high school education. It was private, not diocesan. And then we have Catholic school systems in the United States. And here in Appleton, you have the ACES Xavier system. This was the first Catholic school system in the Diocese of Green Bay, and probably in the nation, one of the first, maybe 5 or 10. There are about 5 dioceses, as best I can determine. There are only about 5 dioceses in the whole United States that have Catholic school systems. And the St. Francis Xavier system here in Appleton is a good example of a system. Parochial school structure. Pastor is in charge of the whole enchilada, the parish and the school, both. He in turn hires a principal. That person has the responsibility then of hiring teachers. The principal, he or she, will evaluate the principals. There's accountability here, but then there's also accountability this direction with the pastor. That's the structure of a parochial school. It's different with a system. You can see there's more layers here. The board of directors is over the whole thing. Okay, they are reported. The members of the board of directors, the minutes of the meetings, etc. All of that is kept track of because the Secretary of State of the state of Wisconsin wants to know what's going on in the corporation. This is a separate diocesan corporation. The bishop, Deacon Tim, who is the administrator of the Curia, yours truly, and then the pastors and parish directors of those parishes that support financially the school system are members of the board of directors. And in the corporate bylaws, the bishop has to vote with the majority. It's interesting, huh? He has to vote with the majority. They, in turn, find people, lay people, to form what's called a board of trustees. And the board of trustees provides oversight for basically the day-to-day operations of the system. They meet typically once a month. Sometimes they take July off. They're responsible for finding and ultimately hiring, with the approval of the board of directors, a system president or a system administrator. And this person, in turn, is responsible then for hiring, evaluating, and God forbid, but firing principals. And then the principals are involved in finding the teachers for their various schools. So there are more layers here. The advantage, however, is that in systems, especially in larger communities, this makes a lot of sense. It provides for centralized development, fundraising, marketing, and finance. Some years ago, when I was in the Archdiocese of Hartford, there was a city that I used to visit as part of my responsibility called Waterbury, Connecticut. We called Waterbury the Holy Land because there were 25 parishes in a city of 100,000 people, 2 Catholic high schools, 10 elementary schools. You were either Italian or Irish. You were either a Red Sox fan or a Yankees fan. And there was right through town. Point here was they were all going after the same people to support their schools. So somebody coming in from Sacred Heart High School, could be 5 minutes later somebody come in from St. Lucy's School knocking on the door. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, etc. Well, that's nuts. People get sick and tired of people knocking on their door asking for money. But if it's coordinated through a system, that doesn't happen. That does not happen. And also, systems allow for, I think it makes it easier, I should say, the establishment of endowment programs, of foundations, where there's a long-range plan to acquire funds and to use those funds for the upkeep of the facilities, but more importantly, to provide long-lasting scholarships for students. So this is the reason why here in the diocese, many of our major communities now have systems. Now, the question was asked of me, what makes for a great school or a successful school? Well, the ideas you're going to see here are anecdotal. These are things that John Reitz and myself have seen in our many years in Catholic education. So this is not based on statistical data, but more anecdotal. But what we notice is if you have great parish and school leadership, chances are you're going to have a good school. You're going to have a great school. Leadership is extremely important. Having a mission, a vision, and a plan. That's extremely important if you're going to have a school that's going to survive, but better yet, thrive. Excellent teachers and academics. The teachers are where the curriculum is developed and where it is delivered. And I know, because I'm an example of it, great teachers can make a great impression and they can help students who otherwise might not do very well in school. Okay? Teacher is key to this whole thing. The other part of it is great parent and school board support. If the parents aren't involved, or they really don't care, or if you have a school board that gets together and all they care about is whether we're going to have tater tots on Friday or Monday instead, that doesn't make for a great school. A great school board is some group of people that are interested in development, fundraising, they want to market the school, they want to let people in the community know what's going on in the school, so putting press releases together and getting them out there, etc. Faith integration. Well, this is the whole reason why our Catholic schools exist, is to pass on the faith. So faith integration in all aspects of school operation, not just academics, athletics, other extracurriculars as well. Obviously, talking about marketing and development, the importance. The schools that are great schools have great development programs. They also have great marketing programs. People know they exist. One of the best things the school can do to advertise itself is to have the students walk the talk. Be an example in the community. So get involved, be visible in the parish, in the greater community at large, where people can see, yeah, you know, they embrace what they're learning. You know, I've heard this, that the longest foot, 12 inches, is between here and the heart. You can learn a whole lot of facts about your Catholic faith, but the most important thing is to get it down here where you put it into action. So people who see kids living out their faith, oh, that's a sign of a very strong Catholic school. The integration of technology into the curriculum, this is huge. This is huge. This is where education is today. So much of it is done by technology. And because of technology, we can actually flip what's going on in education in any given day. So instead of homework being done at night, like how it was for me, and it was drudgery, I hated it. You come to class, you take the notes, and then you go home and have to do those wonderful word problems and Dick and Jane books and all that kind of stuff. They're flipping it. You learn at night. How do you learn? Online. There's tons of resources online. There's something called Khan Academy. It's been on 60 Minutes. I mean, they have videos on all kinds of math, science, history, whatever. You can go to Khan Academy, learn, come into class and do homework, and the teacher's there to help the kids who are struggling with their homework. Radical idea, but it's now possible because of technology. You can also have students do a lot of research and end of course projects now because of technology, showing or demonstrating what they really know rather than bubbling in an A, a B, or a C. And then team spirit. If you don't have team spirit in a school, among the kids, among the teachers, the support staff, the administration, you're not going to have a successful school. It's got to be a team to make that school successful. Here's another one. You need to have a warm, welcoming school office. For many people, that's the first point of contact. They walk into the school office, and if the secretary or the administrative assistant is kind of sour, not very friendly, that's their first impression of the school. You may never see that person again, but they're going to always remember how they were treated when they walked into that school office. And guess what? People talk. Great support staff. I can't say enough about this. When I was a principal of Catholic High School in Bristol, Connecticut, I told my faculty, I told everybody, I said, you know, if we come to work and our support staff is not there and our maintenance staff, Jesse's not here, we might as well just lock the doors and go on back home. Support staff many times know more than any of the administrators or any of the teachers about what's really going on and what's important. Generally, they have the history, people talk to them, grocery store or whatever, so they know. They're the people in the know. And your custodial maintenance staff, treat them like gold. Because when you walk into a building and you see the floor shining, the walls are clean, things are put away neat and clean, things are painted every year, the woodwork is polished, that's a sign of a successful school. Everything's got to be clicking. Everything. Now, why do schools close? Well, again, this is anecdotal. These are reasons why schools close. And I'm going to give you a list here, and you're going to say, Joe, that's the perfect storm. Man, if all of these things happen, yeah, there's no way a school's going to stay open. Well, I'm going to go to the first one. Smaller pool of students. If the number of students declines, and we have some communities where this has happened, where it just keeps declining, well, eventually, that's going to impact your school, whether it can stay open or not. Now, as this is happening, it's important for a school or a school system to be checking something, however. And that is, every public school keeps track of all school-age children in the community. And the principal or the board should be going and collecting that data every year and tracking what percent of those school-age children are in the Catholic school. If you're able to maintain the same percentage of that number, you're in a good place. Yeah, you want to grow it, you'd like to be able to grow it, but if you can hold that same percentage, that's a good thing. But if you notice that as the pool declines, the general pool declines, or if it stays the same but your percentage is beginning to shrink, that's a sign you better get busy to build up that percentage. Rural areas in particular in this diocese have and continue to have problems because they're losing population. And it isn't just affecting the Catholic schools, it's affecting the public schools as well. So that's a thing that we here in the Diocese of Green Bay are faced with. Poor catechesis. This has had a dramatic impact on what's happening in Catholic schools today. Right after Vatican II, catechesis moved into more of an experiential mode rather than looking at facts and figures in the Baltimore Catechism. We went more experiential. And as long as you knew that Jesus loved you and you could make a great macrame Jesus or do decoupage, you were good to go. Well, that worked fine, maybe in 65 to 70, but this continued for a while, and people didn't learn the basics of their Catholic faith. So not only do we have parents, but we have grandparents that really don't know what the Catholic faith is all about. And this number is growing. It's not shrinking, it's growing. And so they don't value. If you don't know, you're not going to value it, right? And they don't value Catholic education. Why should I send my child or my grandchild to Catholic school when I don't really value my Catholic faith in the first place? It's meaningless. It's not relevant. So why would I do this? This is happening wholesale. Not only here, throughout the whole country. And then families move to where the jobs are. If you're unemployed right now, you'd probably be thinking, I think I might move to western North Dakota. Not for the weather, but for the jobs. They're looking for about 25,000 jobs right now in the oil industry in Williston and Bismarck, North Dakota. So families will be moving to where the jobs are. Well, that has an effect on school enrollments. Here's another one, and this is a big one, more than you might think. If you have schools that have great sports, parents are selecting the school based on this. Now, I think most parents need to take a course in statistics. This is the reason. Very few little guys are going to make it to the NFL or the NBA. Statistically, I mean, it's in an infinitesimal, okay, that that's going to happen. But a lot of people want their kids in the sports program and the very best sports program. Well, Catholic schools generally, yeah, we have some good sports programs, but in many cases we don't have the resources that our public schools do. And so they have better programs. They have a wider range of sport. We also suffer from the traveling teams and that type of thing. That's also having an impact on our Catholic school enrollment. And then parents feel that they can't afford, and I say feel, because they can't afford. Almost every school, without exception, has tuition assistance funds available to make it affordable to parents. But I've talked to principals and I've talked to system presidents, and they have told me that they have families that refuse to apply for tuition assistance. They would rather pull their kids out rather than to ask for assistance. Okay. Small class sizes. This is an important one. And gender imbalance within any given class. Good example of this happened up in Green Bay a year or two after I first got there. So this goes back about 7 or 6 years ago. We had an elementary school up there. It was a K-8. It had an enrollment for the following year. This was in May. May 1st, they had about 120 kids enrolled for the next school year. In the 6th grade class, there were 5 kids enrolled for the next year's 6th grade class. There were 3 boys and 2 girls in that class. Well, in May, after the registration, one of the families of one of those girls decided, this is not really good socially. Going into 6th grade, there's only one other girl, and there are 3 boys. I don't like this. And so pulled the daughter out. The other girl's family then found out, Susie, her parents pulled her out. Well, this family, not only did they have the daughter in 6th grade, but they had like 2 or 3 other kids elsewhere in other grades in the school. So they decided, we'll pull our kids out of the school. And this is no exaggeration. In 2 weeks, they were down to an enrollment of 10 for the following year, and they had to close the school. I've never seen that before in my experience. But what it showed is if you get small class sizes, yeah, they're great. Some people feel that, my kid is going to get better instruction, more attention by the teacher. On one hand, yeah, that might be a good thing. it might not be a good thing, because especially if there's a gender imbalance. If there are all girls and one boy, and people are going to pull. Socialization is very important, especially in the upper grades. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, this is a real big issue. Real big issue. We also have a perception that public school education is better. And guess what? It's free. Property taxes? But anyway, that people perceive it as being free. You don't have to pay tuition. So the program is as good or better at the public schools, so that's where my son or daughter is going. And then we have some pastors, and we have an exception here. Father Don. But we have some pastors who don't really promote their Catholic school. They're not interested in Catholic school education. And so they don't promote it. And then we also have poor relationship between the parish religious ed and the school. You know, the Berlin Wall went down in 1989. Guess what? There's a Berlin Wall that's still standing between RE programs and school in most parishes. And the RE program should be promoting the school. If you can get kids excited about their Catholic faith, the families, then why not put the kids in a program where the Catholic faith is there Monday through Friday for 6, 7, 8 hours? They don't promote. They don't help promote. Here's another reason. No clear sense of what the mission is. What's the mission of the school? What's the vision? Where are we going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What's this school going to look like? Are we going to be rocking and rolling? Or are we going to be closed? And this is evidenced so many places where we see school closure or where they're just hanging on by a thread. Number one, there's no plan. No plan. How can you operate like that? There's a 1-year budget. Well, that implies that's all you think you've got. 1 more year. A mission statement? What's that? And then, guess what? Low enrollment. Yeah, that plays a big part here. And that translates in very poor finances. A lot of red ink. Got to close it eventually. So these are just reasons why schools close. Why are costs increasing? You don't need me to tell you why they're increasing, okay? But the first 2 items you see up here on the slide take anywhere from 80 to 85% of the school's budget. And they're increasing. Personnel costs have to increase every year. Our Catholic school teachers, the elementary school teachers, make somewhere around 75 to maybe 80% of what their counterparts in public education make. High school might be a little bit closer to 80, 85. We have to pay our teachers. We have to give them a wage, hopefully, that's a livable wage. In some cases, I'm sorry to say that doesn't happen, but we try. Benefits costs. Our medical insurance costs increase, and all the benefits increase accordingly. This adds a lot of pressure to the budget. Technology. We need to keep technology updated in our schools. This is important, and this is a competitive factor too. When parents look at Catholic school versus public school, they're looking at technology. How much technology does this school have? And then just general inflationary causes. Heating expense, okay? Food for the food school operation, whatever. All of that is going up. Okay, we don't have stagflation, we have inflation. Thank goodness it's not very high right now. But schools, churches, we all fall under the same laws of economics as you do in the corporate world. There are fixed costs, there are variable costs, just like there are in business and industry. Fixed costs, you want to make sure those costs are spread over the largest number of students possible. Keep your per pupil costs down. Tuition, no one in this diocese charges a tuition that's at per pupil cost. Our average, roughly, average elementary school tuition in this diocese runs somewhere around $2,100 a year. People who come to this area from other areas, especially from the East Coast or the West Coast, that come here, and when they are told what the tuition is, many of them will say, is that for a quarter or is that for half a year? No, it's for a year. We have very inexpensive tuition here. The reason for that is part of this. Our costs are lower here in the Midwest than they are on the coast. But there's also another reason, and that is that in the Diocese of Green Bay, our parishes have been extremely generous in supporting our Catholic schools. Some of our Catholic schools receive a huge amount of parish resource to keep them going and to keep them affordable. Tuition in general in this diocese covers maybe 40% of per pupil costs. 40%. Now, what changes are possible? Okay, we're going to kind of move into a more positive mode here, okay? Increase the marketing and advertising. That's definitely something that we can do. And that doesn't mean paper, okay? Print. Need to do more in the electronic area. Increase tuition assistance funds. If we can provide more funding for this and make it more affordable and market the dickens out of the fact that we have tuition assistance money. In-services for pastors who have parishes with schools. This is something that Bishop Riggins is going to have this year. In October, there's going to be at the Priests Clergy Congress a whole section on this in-service. Continually improving the Catholicity of our schools. We cannot have too much Catholicism in our schools. Absolutely not. We have to continually improve, increase, make it so everybody who walks in the door, every child knows, wow, this is a Catholic school. We need to publicize the students' academic results. Almost to a school. The elementary schools in our rural areas, the small rural areas, almost every principal will tell me, Joe, this year the public high school salutatorian, valedictorian, the top 10% of the class are all graduates of our school. Well, then why don't you publicize that in the local paper? Why don't you have that on your website so people know what you guys are doing? Increase the number of voucher students. This has had an interesting impact. This year, this academic year, we, throughout the state, were given 500 voucher slots. In the Diocese of Green Bay, we ended up taking quite a percentage of that 500. Part of it is because we have school systems. That helped a great deal in getting voucher programs in the Diocese of Green Bay. Now, some of the families, most of the families that got a voucher already were in our schools. But there were people who were taking tuition assistance money. So what this enabled us to do in our schools is to shift the tuition assistance money so that people in the lower middle class could actually now afford a Catholic school enrollment. You know, a chance to keep their kids or to at least look at enrolling their students in a Catholic school. We hope, our goal is we're hoping that more and more families will take advantage of the voucher program and that the voucher program itself will be expanded here in the state of Wisconsin. Now, what's the importance of Catholic Ed? Well, I put some things up here. We live in a different world. And I would venture to say, and it might sound a little radical, but sometimes I feel I'm in a foreign country. This isn't the same place that I grew up in. The values, the TV shows, the movies, just the way people are is so different than when I was a kid. So the cultural values have shifted in this country. We have what's going on called the deconstruction of beliefs. And this is really critical if we have children who are coming through Catholic school or public school who've gone to religious ed and they go to a public university, chances are pretty good that somewhere along the line, either in science or in philosophy, they're going to be deconstructing their belief system intentionally. Materialism. This is huge in our culture. We even have bumper stickers, okay, that say, those who die that have the most toys win. Yeah, okay. Materialism. Just buy, consume. You know, buy the big house, have the fancy car, just keep doing this over and over and over again. Moral relativism. This one and utilitarianism are scary. Scary. That my morality is all that matters. There is no objective morality here. There's no objective, God-given set of standards. It's my standards. That's all that counts. That leads to chaos. And utilitarianism is a real scary concept. And it's out there. That a person's worth and value is only what they can do. And once you become useless or dependent, time to check out. And that's prevalent in our culture. And I come from a state, one of two, that has made it legal to euthanize people. Washington State, the other is Oregon. Lack of understanding of the common good. This is another frustration of me. We have a $17 trillion debt, federal debt. One night, because I was never very good at math, I thought, how big is a trillion? Go online. Go online and put in how much is $1 trillion, and you will be scared to death of the visual of $100 bills stacked. And they'll show you what 1 trillion looks like. Multiply it by 17. Our Congress can't get at the problem. We have forgotten about the common good. That's at that level. But even within our own communities, even within our families, people can't work towards the common good anymore. It goes back to this and this. It's me. It's very narcissistic. And then an increase in anti-Catholicism and anti-Christianity. That's another thing that's going on in our culture today. There's a huge increase in anti-Catholicism and anti-Christianity. And I was amazed. At one point in my career, I used to deal with academics all the time. I can't tell you how many hated Catholics. Unbelievable. I thought that all ended, back with the Ku Klux Klan in the 20s and everything. No, it's alive and well. So Catholic education and knowing our Catholic faith is so important to combat this. Now, what are we doing in religious ed? I'm going to go real quick because time's wasting here. But anyway, we have now only 5 textbook series in the elementary that Bishop Ricken has approved for all schools in the diocese. We're working on the same thing for our high schools. We have that religion certification program I told you about. We have a new policy. It's coming out in about a week or two, requiring 30 to 35 instructional hours of parish religious education a year. All students will need to do that. And then I mentioned the theology of the body. That's also coming down the track. What can we do? Well, here they are. Encourage our children, grandchildren to attend Catholic school, religious ed programs. Do lots of word-of-mouth advertising. It's the best, and it's also the cheapest. Donate to our schools and our parish religious ed programs. Yes, donate to the parish religion ed program. A lot of times they don't have a lot of money to work with. Get involved. Share expertise. All of us have work and education that can help in various areas that would help our schools, help our parish religious ed programs. Give testimonials. Those of you that are products of Catholic school education, you should be invited to give testimonials to parents and grandparents as to how that benefited you in your life and in your work. Participate in planned giving programs. That's wills and bequests. Pray daily. Don't forget. Pray daily for our kids, for our schools, and for our religious ed programs and youth ministry programs. Find ways to get children and youth involved in parish life. Kids should be ushers, lectors. They should be doing a lot of stuff in our parish. They should be on the parish council and the finance council. I know it sounds radical, but you got to get them involved. They have to have a stake in this. And then encourage our pastors to strongly support all forms of Catholic education. Okay? Where's Father Don there? No. Do you have any questions? John?
How do you work together with spiritualists?
We worked with them through, actually more through parishes than through our department. The parishes contract with spiritists to do the either the confirmation retreat program or our schools for their school retreats. Eric Bloomreich up at the camp and Eden Ford also work very well in having spiritists come up to Camp Tech and use those facilities for their retreats. But we don't directly contract with them as much. Yes, Jim.
Doctor,
Just call me Joe.
just received my Catholic Foundation annual report.
Yes.
Money is so important, yet I see 65 billion sitting in the bank. Why don't they use their priorities and look at education? I know Lumen Christi gives some.
Yes.
65 billion collecting interest doesn't work for me.
Okay. You'll need to take that up with the bishop. That's the Catholic Foundation, and there's a board that makes those decisions. Okay. Yes, and I would like to see more of the, investment in education. I will say we do get a nice amount of money through the Advancing the Mission campaign that was done a few years ago. We get that for educational programming, leadership, things of that nature. And thank you to all of you who support the Bishop's Annual Fund and Advancing the Mission campaign from a few years ago. Yes?
Joe, excellent presentation, but Xavier now is having a change. Matt Reinebold, Tony Hampton is leaving. I think most of the people here have had some experience with management or supervision.
Yes.
How can the board justify losing 2.5 people out of 3 people who have done such an excellent job? I think you have to have some impossible answer. I was on the public school board at Little Chute for 6 years. We lost our administrator. We had a ton of problems. I cannot fathom how you can replace those 3 people. I don't know why you allow it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, again, the reason that this is happening is not because they were asked to leave, it's because they wanted to leave. Okay, nobody asked Tony or Matt or Donna to move on. They're at their point in their life that they've discerned that they want to do something different. And so it's like the perfect storm. I mean, we didn't see this coming, didn't want to see this coming. But it's happened. And so now we are faced, and it is a very difficult situation. We've got to find great, not good, we have to find great leadership for these key positions. And there's competition because just down the road in Neenah Menasha, they're looking for a new president. Father Dane up in Green Bay is looking for 3 outstanding principals for his schools. And they're looking for a new principal in Little Chute. And Luxembourg's looking for a principal. So we've got competition. Needless to say, I'm going to be very busy on search committees here.
I have a question. This is way down at the lower levels, but if you have, I know of a circumstance where we have some really naughty kids in school, and how do you, when you need the kids in school, and you want to romance the parents also, how do you deal with just strong disciplinary needs?
Okay, that's a very good question because I was on the backside of that hackboard when I was a kid. From the time I was a first grader until I was actually a senior in high school. Well, the way to deal with that is in a very Christian, caring way. We forget sometimes, we think kids are finished, or they should be finished by the time they get to school or high school or whatever, and that's not the case. They're still learning, and they're still learning how to act in public with their peers, etc. The way to handle it is through a series of progressive discipline, where you ultimately want to start with the teacher dealing with it. You don't want to be too quick to let the principal assume and take control of that situation, because then the principal will be inundated all the time with all the problems. You want to hold that back. The teacher needs to be first, ultimately the principal. You need to be patient. You need to use, if you can, especially for the older kids, some peer involvement as well. I know my time's up here, so I see Jim coming. The hook is coming.
First of all, Joe, thank you very much. So, I just want to leave you with this one thought. I have two sons. All went to Catholic grade schools, Xavier High Schools, and Northern College. Very successful business-wise, very Christian, very Catholic. Well, somebody came up to my wife and said, "Boy, you are so lucky." My wife had one comment: luck had nothing to do with it. You don't notice it while they're growing up, but the importance of Catholic education when they grow up. As you drive into Manitowoc, there used to be a great big billboard there with one of the prominent members of the community there, and there used to be a big caption: "I owe it all to my Catholic school." Think of that when you talk to your friends. Think of that when you reach into your pocketbook. Again, thank you all for coming.